Good evening, good evening. Welcome to another Airfix and Chill. So, we're here to brighten up your first day back after a long weekend and whatnot. It's all good. Um, Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have quite a few of the normal crew on. We've got Ben, we've got Jim, we've got John Alec, we've got Zinzan, and we've got
The idiot in the corner.
in the corner there, Barry. They're from North Devon Model Society. I've not heard from John Parker. Luke won't be with us. Something's come up, so he won't be with us. But I presume Nigel and that, or others I've invited on, will come and visit us later. But our special guest tonight is Dave from 3D Gizmo. Welcome, Dave, to Airfix
Hi
and Chill.
guys.
I've been wanting to get Dave on for a while now. I did a video, I think it was beginning of the month, because he has this brand new subscription service where you sign up and once a month you will get a scale figure, 3D printed, very, very nicely produced. I've got mine here. The one thing I do like is the card that you get with it. So you get like a metal card, and I'll just go bigger very quickly so people can see what I'm showing them. So you get this a beautiful 3D printed resin figure for you to try out your skills of figure painting. You get a base as well. You also get this metal card, which I believe is 3D etch, but I will talk to Dave about that in a minute. And this one come with this fantastic little dog as well with it. I was certainly impressed, but then every time I go to a model show and I see Dave there and his beloved smiling at me, wanting a hug as normal, you can't help but be impressed by what you see on their stand. And to be fair, it's great to have you on also, not just to talk about this, but of your subscription, but to actually dig a bit deeper into 3D printer. I think we had you on last year, I think about 18 months ago, and you went away and impressed a lot of people with the comments I got back. But we're going to get into it anyway. Obviously, in the banners, if you have a question, put question or QQQ. Comments, put comment or CCC in the chat, and we'll read them out. And I will just post here quickly the link to 3D Gizmo's website. But anyway, welcome along, Dave. Subscriptions and 3D print figures. Let's start with that, shall we? Was the figures the first thing you started to 3D print, or was it just parts that you were coming up with for accessories for modeling, etc.?
Yeah, so really it all started with say I have a technology background, and my brother-in-law, he does model kits, model making. I did it as a kid, haven't done it for many years. Always liked technology, and one thing I noticed and learned from going to a few shows, because it was nice to go along, and I went on my own because the wife didn't want to. It wasn't her cup of tea at the time, and I was soon realizing that people were spending out a lot of money on a kit, but then they were also spending so much more money on accessories.
Yes.
And I was trying to look at it and go, well, the technology's there. It is there. I can see what people produce. So I spent basically 3 years before even doing all this to actually perfect and learn what I was doing. And it wasn't for going to a couple shows and then Simon, my friend, he was like, Dave, you do realize what you're producing is really, really good. You need to start showing this at shows. People will be interested. I didn't think it would be. I'll be totally honest with you, because I didn't know a lot about the modeling community at the time. And really it's grown straight from there. So I started doing accessories. Then I was asked, well, can you do figures? And again, it's a continuous learning circle. Like, people expect me to understand everything about military. But I'll be honest with you, I spend probably more hours researching about military and making sure I do everything is possibly the best I can. But also now with the group of friends I've got, the community I've got, everybody I see, they give advice, which is fantastic. So so it's grown upon that into figures. We do 145, 151 16th figures now.
Wow, that's a lot of figures.
Yeah, it is.
Because you, as I said, I think everyone here will have seen you. If how far north have you gone with the model shows? Did you go?
Bolton.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not quite cracked Scotland yet, but once you crack Scotland, it'll be America. But yeah. So I just look at some of the questions. One here from Paul Wiltshire, how much these figures and where you can get them from. I'm just going to get up the website now so people can have a look at the website. So you come with the idea of doing a subscription package because you were asked for it, I guess.
Yeah, so we were asked by a lot of people about our figures. So our figures are solid resin as well, and they are all £21 roughly. There's some which are a bit more expensive because they're slightly different, more accessories. And people who kept asking, can you do a subscription service for this? I want to do figure painting, but the price ranges from like ours £21 to other people's you can buy at £60. And they're all great figures, but people don't want to be painting a £60 figure.
Yes.
So they're all concerned. So did a lot of research over a year of this, and we came to the price point of, well, we decided that we want to give back to the community, and everybody's been great with us. And part of that was, what can we do at an affordable price for people? So a lot of people were saying they would like maybe to choose. We said, as a commercial standpoint, we need to be able to do what we're doing. So we said, well, if we did 3 of the most popular themes, once a month, we as 3D Gizmo would choose the popular figure that we know has been sold over the last 2 years or 5 years. And we will send that figure out to somebody, and part of that is what you showed, which was the it's laser etched, got laser engraved on a metal card. We've done custom artwork for each one, so you receive that as well. And part of that is at $16.99. That includes delivery. So you get a figure delivered to your door with a few other little bits occasionally. We might be looking at Christmas specials and stuff like that as well. And something you can add to your collection. So we've done a base. Some people have said, well, actually, I don't want to paint them. I actually want to collect them.
Yes.
So as a standpoint, that's why we've done it, to give back to the community as well for it.
Just look on your website now. Go to subscribe. There's other benefits as well. It's even smaller, actually.
It is, unfortunately,
every subscriber receives... Let me just go back one. Let's go back because I think the information is there. Every subscriber will receive a high detailed resin 1 to 16th scale unpainted figure worth at least £21 RRP every month, drawn from 3 popular themes. So you've got World War II US forces, World War II German forces, and World War II British forces. Basically, it's mostly the same, just got a different hat on. After a continued 6-month subscription, you'll receive a premium membership card that you can use at any model show that we attend and receive a 10% discount. Full fair play. So basically click on subscribe, and then you select your membership here, select it, and then you sign up, etc. So you can log in, and basically $16.99, as you said. You'll be charged monthly until you're cancelled, and basically for that sort of price, you are getting mostly, you're getting a figure, and that includes your postage as well. So there's no like $3.99 on top of that price. It's a box standard $16.99. Just go back to that. Let's look at your figures. A
lot of our figures still need to go on now. We haven't got them all on at the moment.
You haven't got them all on, though?
No, can't at the moment. So I'm very lucky to... Oh, it's not loading. It will. So we're very lucky. My father does a lot of web design, so he does a lot of the web stuff for us. So they're the 1/35 figures we do currently at the moment.
And just looking, just seeing that the facial expressions on them are pretty solid as well, aren't they? So you've gone deep with it, but also you scan these in as well, don't you? You scan faces in, if I believe right. So
a lot of the figures that we're providing are actually scanned faces of people that we have then created and put onto the figures as well. So they're actually lifelike people that you might even recognise through the shows.
I'm thinking of James May.
James
May the Spitfire.
So I know the one thing, but the 16th ones aren't coming up, unfortunately. I can't.
I'll have a look at that.
Have a look at that. I can't get the 16th ones up, but you should get an idea basically of of what you'll be getting. And so is it like the first week of every month that they will get this subscription?
Yeah, so what happened is payment will come out your first one, and what we do is the payment gets changed the first of the month, the following month, and then within the third week to the fourth week of the month, that figure will be sent out in the post, and you'll receive it by the end of the month, and it'll roll like that for the continuous period until you decide to cancel from there.
Fair enough. Any questions, lads, in the chat about these figures? What about you? Anyone? Jim, Ben, Roger?
Right. How is it all done? I went to a talk who's someone who worked in the film industry and did CGI.
Yeah.
And when he did like spaceships, it was wireframe and skin. How do you make these figures?
So a lot of this is you can 3D scan people. So we've had people dress up for us, and I've got 3D scanning technology, and I will do a full body scan. But if you start from the very basics of how a lot of these fantastic designers do, and there's fantastic guys out there. They basically imagine if you're doing a face, you start off with a digital ball on a screen, and then basically you can do symmetry on that ball. So if you start pulling one side of it, it will pull the other side of it as well.
Yeah.
So if you're doing lips, so basically it's all I describe. It's like using clay, and you're physically sculpting on a screen like clay of a ball to make it into a face, and then you've got uniforms. You can add stuff in. So
like some sort of oddball CAD package.
Yeah, so there's lots of packages out there. So I use ZBrush a lot as well. So I've had to learn another program. ZBrush is very good for sculpting. So, but like I always say to people, when you're modeling, these do take a long time. These take me hours and hours and hours to do and to make. Even a vehicle, you're talking out hundreds of hours. Sometimes you can do it in 50, 60 hours. Some vehicles, when you do research, can take me 150 hours. Plus the research on top.
Incredible. Yeah. And this is why plastic model kits won't go out, because they're far more cost effective. And the 3D stuff is great for conversions.
3D printing stuff's absolutely great for conversions. I can't see plastic model kits going away myself. Talks I've had with manufacturers and stuff like that as well. So I've spoken to a lot of manufacturers as well. I think it is a great add-on for people to do stuff at home if they want to, or potentially manufacturers might start producing add-on kits. It's never going to go away. I do think personally that there is, I've noticed that there's a lot of different types of modelers out there as well. There's people who love to put kits together. There's people who just want to put the vehicle together because they want to build the diorama, because theirs is diorama based. So when you might look at a tank and people might say, well, I've only got 10 pieces to put together on a resin kit, but I might have 2,000 pieces to put together on a plastic model kit. It depends where you sit. There's people who love putting tracks together, but I know people who don't like putting tracks together.
Amen. So, the first thing I always do now when I pick up a tank model kit, I look at the pieces in it. If it's more than 200, you know that it's going to be separate bits of, 4 bits to a track link. No, that's not for me, mate. Not even for me. Not for me that. But
give it a miss.
One of them. But then if you've got manufacturers or companies who are producing a resin track kit that you can do print in situ, that aids your kit. But again, I know people who the vehicle is only a base to the diorama because they build dioramas. And that's something I've come across with a lot of people I've spoken to. There is a very difference in model making people out there.
Yeah. Just going back, somebody just asked, will it just be war figures, or have you got other figures coming along for that collection? Remember this is going to be an ongoing thing. So, and you've got, how many have you got? 150.
I've got 150 figures currently at the moment.
At the moment, so you can imagine that's 150 months. So that's like 15 years before you get to the end of that collection. So
we've also got Vietnam we're working on at the moment as well. That looks to be dropping soon. We're trying to get those sorted. So at currently at the moment, we thought we'd stick with the three themes.
Yeah.
stick around the World War II theme. There's a possibility that we might look at doing something on 135th, because we're getting asked an awful lot for that as well. Maybe do a set of figures for 135th.
Fair enough. Tommy's saying that will there be Scottish model figures? I think he said it quite clearly. I think his business will grow, but as you say, it's just getting that time to get those people scanned in wearing that particular uniform, I guess, and trying to find that uniform,
designing it from scratch,
and trying to find somebody to wear a kilt before they start doing.
I've got one. I've got one.
I'm booking a date in.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roger.
It's more or less inevitable that someone's going to ask this question, so it might as well be me. But you any plans to look at 132 and 148 scale, which will raise another question in a minute?
I am looking at it. I'll be honest with you, we've got quite a few projects currently in the pipeline I'm currently working on. I'm doing a couple private stuff for a couple of companies I can't discuss. But we are working towards it. So at the moment, it's basically teaching. I've got somebody who's interested in learning some stuff, but help me. So we are looking at them scales, but it's what we do in them scales, because it's like a rabbit hole. I could do everything.
Oh, indeed.
Or I could do a niche which is commercially viable.
Or you can do everything badly, or you can do one or two things really well. I completely agree. It leads me on to a thought I had whilst you were speaking there about, particularly with relation to, you could have Moz as a tank commander, for example. Perish the thought, I know, but had you considered? I mean, I suppose the question is, can you make a figure from a photograph, or do you need a 3D, if you like, render of it? Because the reason I ask is, well, there's no limit to what you can do with celebrated, say, pilots in history, for example. You can, and now someone can have their diorama with a celebrated pilot. I mean, Qatari did it with Brian Lane, as I recall, but there's no reason why you ought not to do it with other folk, and I think there's a significant market for that. Obviously, or indeed, John Alec could be dioramaed at the helm of his own butcher bird, for example, or something like that.
Yes, it's very possible. It is possible. People do it all the time. I haven't got my skill sets up there fully. I know that people will probably hit the subject of AI. There's a lot of AI coming out now which is able to transform photographs into an image of somebody. There's a lot of work then you still have to do on the digital side within different applications. There is a couple people that I know of who are phenomenal, and that's their job. I've actually passed that on to people, to his name, because he does such a good job. He's got years and years and years ahead of me completely, and he's fantastic at what he does, and so lifelike as well. So for me, it's more of a case of I'm now looking at hitting the nail on the head, like you said, about doing what I do correctly and properly, and making sure it's good for what people get without rushing too much stuff.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I go on.
No, I was just going to say, you carry on then, because I was just going to ask a question on a slightly different tangent.
No, carry on. I mean, it stops me from uttering inanity.
No, I was just going to ask. It's in two separate ways. Within sort of your portfolio of things that you've already got in, figures, can you effectively buy any figure that you want in varying scales, or is it currently set to certain sizes for certain figures? That's the first part of my question.
Yeah. So there's two things. Yes and no. You can do that. So the problem you have is, so if you use somebody online, a designer who designs something, and the only way I can describe it, let's start with a vehicle for sake of arguments, or a person with a gun in the same process. If they design that in a 1-to-1 scale format, when you actually scale it down, so if you've got a tank wall, a vehicle wall, which is, I don't know, 10, 20 mil thick, when you drag that down, that gets very, very super thin. So when you want to scale that down, it won't actually do it. So if you do it the other way, and something's been designed at a small scale with a very thick wall for design for printing is what you do it for. As soon as you blow that up, that wall becomes, very, very thick, very quick.
Yeah.
So you can do it. There is ways around it. You just got to know what you're doing. Is it quick? No. Sometimes you can. All depends on how that person has designed that file for what size or where they started from.
Okay. And then sort of the second part of my question is to do with the portfolio you have currently.
Yep.
Do you currently have any sort of like modern civilian type or even any civilian period? Because obviously notice a lot of military, but any civilian, I'm sort of thinking like modelers at a museum or air show people with cameras, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is
So
that something that you have?
we do have some collection of resistance figures. We were going down that route. Surprisingly, they weren't as popular as we were expecting, because one thing we learned, we get asked for a lot of stuff at shows. So we always say to people, the amount of time we spend on it, we try now to make it commercially viable to do that, because it might take me to redesign a figure might take me a whole week, and then I've got to test print it. That can take several days. So we did some resistance figures. They did sell, but not very well, if you know what I mean. And when you go to shows, price, you get in charge an awful lot at a stand. So you got to make sure what you're putting in there is what people are looking for. But we have got some generic figures at the moment of people in boots, shirts, jackets, that kind of stuff. I've got, I think, a couple of people with cameras, but they're more, I would say, around the era between 1940s to the 1970s, maybe.
Yeah.
Because again, the clothes change so much within their eras.
Yeah. Hairstyles as well, isn't it?
Massively.
There's a lot to look at. Just a quick question in from Search Lost Diecast. Can you select the figure you want, or the monthly one sent out by default? They are sent out by default. I think if you do want a 16th scale figure and it's on the website, you can order that separately.
Yes.
But this is a subscription, so basically it becomes a collection. So that's, they've, that's what I think, that's what it says on the website as well. You will receive one figure. But then, like I said, this is a trial. I think one of the things you'll find, Dave, is that you've got to choose your horses wisely on what to ride. Obviously, if you're going to spend 150 hours looking into a subject matter that's not going to sell, or very slowly, you're not going to bother, are you? So.
No, it's not just that. Part of what our ethos at the shows as well is we're very open. So, like I've always said to people, and I've said to you, Moz, as well, long we cover the stand fee, I do this because it's my hobby. As people joke, I do it as a hobby as well, because I enjoy what I do. I enjoy producing a model from a screen and actually holding it in your hand. So when we go to shows, part of our ethos is that, we cover the stand fees or whatever they charge, and we enjoy talking to people and seeing what people want. And I'm more than happy to create something for somebody if enough people have asked for it to actually enjoy and see what they do. We always ask people, show us what you do, what we produce.
Yeah. That's it. If you said any questions you want to fire at Dave, we're going to go into a lot about scale modeling, because I know that a lot of people are very interested. Just looking at the chat now, there's a few people that I know that are looking into producing or making their own 3D printed stuff. They've bought the printers and they're having to play with it. Are you one for putting out designs, or for people to print their own, or is it just standard in-house for you at the moment, Dave?
I keep everything in-house personally myself, because I know I got hacked. This is the very beginning, and a lot of stuff went out online, and I've had to deal with a lot of people and say, look, you got to take this down, solicitors and stuff like that as well. But the problem you have is the technology changed. So all my stuff now is air gapped. It's all stored offline, all air gapped completely. So it's nowhere near the internet anymore. Wow. So from a file perspective, is that people say, well, you could make money off your files, but at the same time, all I got to do is sell it to that one person who doesn't want to respect the licensing. Yeah. And this is what I say to people, and then it goes out to the domain. You hear about photographs going online. It's exactly the same with digital files, and this is something I've spoken to companies about. You want to produce something. There is ways which people don't realize. So currently at the moment, I can create a design, I can digitally watermark that like you'd watermark a sheet of paper. You won't see it. It could be, it's in the G code or inside the code. It would be inside the actual, there might be a mark on the model that you wouldn't see. But if I then saw that model and said that was mine, I can then turn around and buy that file off that person and then look at the file format, use a key and unlock it and say, that's my file, because I can see it.
Yeah.
We had a particular gentleman, particular person who had one of my files, and I was saying, this is my file. And they're going, no, it's not. And I said, look, this is my file. And they went, prove to me how this is your file. I went, you got my dad's face on the figure.
Oh, nice one. Like it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Photographs by me and my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is it lack of protection then for your files really in this? Because I go onto Coat 3D and I see something on there and you think to yourself, if I download that, fortunately, if I download that file, what is stopping me from just printing it off and making money off the actual product that I've just printed off?
It's called integrity. You can do. Yeah, you can do. There is licenses. They do warn you. So I have licenses. I have all the paperwork for licenses. Some of the stuff I have paid for and bought. People do have that question, which is a very grey area. So I'm going to make a Sherman tank, but somebody's already made a Sherman tank, and it looks identical to what I'm going to make. What is the difference? Now, end of the day, the patent for a Sherman tank or whatever, or the Jeep or anything like that, that was a long time ago. So you're looking at it like, for sake of argument, a jerry can. There is nobody that holds as I understand and I can find, holds the patent for a jerry can anymore. It's open source. Yeah. So if somebody creates one and you want to design one, at what point is it becoming you're taking away from that designer's time and cost of what they've done is what is going to be affected to them. Yeah. But the design is still going to be the same. But it could be wrong. You want to change things and you do create your own. Yeah. But I always say, to anybody in the 3D printing community, end of the day, licensing is the key. It's an industry that's growing. You do have to protect the designers across the board, from Colts, Thingiverse, anybody who does CD Trader. They get paid to do a job, and they're doing it. And they've got skill sets like all of you have, modelers.
As I said, it's basically just the integrity of the person, then, isn't it, of that company that will print these things off. Yeah.
Well, I think on eBay, for example, what I see a lot, because I do 1/350 warships, so it's my general scale. There is a load of them in recent months have all suddenly come on the market, and I suddenly thought, oh, this is good. Someone's out designing these. It wasn't until I was actually looking at the models of the printed ones, going, hang on a minute, that looks like World of Warships. Went away and had a look, and someone has literally pulled off, however they've done it, don't know, they pulled off the files, 3D models of warships, and then put them into obviously a 3D printing system and just printed it straight. And again, I don't know, I presume I think it's Wargaming or whoever owned that will probably start finding lawsuits or something to get back their intellectual property. But and they're charging like $200-300 for this sort of thing, so they're not cheap either.
No. I'm just wondering what comeback you have got though, Dave. Has anybody been to court and and said this guy's been printing something that I've created? Has it gone to court yet and been found in a 3D printer or designer's favour?
Not what I know of from me particularly. A lot of it is just sending paperwork out saying, look, if you do not take this down, you'll be, end of the day, there was, these are my files. I've got watermarks. I can prove it all. No, I don't know anything of it, but I know big companies like Warner Brothers, Disney, all that type will throw a court case at you if you do their stuff.
Yeah. I'm just thinking outside the box, really, because I said it is at the moment, because it's a very new technology. I suppose there's going to be bad actors anyway who's going to, it's like I go on Fiverr and you see a guy who say, oh, we will create, I'm going to say to him, well, I will create a file for you to so you can print off your own Sherman tanks. But deep down they probably just robbed somebody and just tweaked it a little bit. It's difficult, isn't it? So
it is. I think a lot of the printing community is all about, like, I help people, I've helped companies get into 3D printing, nothing to do with modeling. But it is a technology that's coming along. And I say to people who are modelers is that, like I say, joking aside, I know I run it as a business, it's a hobby. To do modeling, so your guys' knowledge of painting and model making is years and it's vast experience. For me to get where you are in that modeling experience would take me all my time to get the same as what you've done.
Yeah.
But if you want to do 3D printing, like I'll say to people, there's a misconception. You'll see a lot of big brand companies selling 3D printers, and they show a model printing. It starts off, then you see a finished model coming out of the printer.
Yeah.
I look at it and go, there's no supports on that. That's never going to print. They're misleading what they're selling.
Yeah.
And like I explained to people, is that 3D printing takes time. It's not quick. It's not easy. Resin printing, FDM printing. Do you want to be spending 15, 25 hours designing work, printing it, or do you want to spend that time modeling?
Yeah.
There is that side to it.
Yeah. So that's going to go, before I go into World War II scale model Dave's question, just the gap between resin printed models and normal injection molded models is getting very close now. And one of the things you have on your website, which I've actually got, is one of these, the Sherman tank. That you basically, it's a one-piece model. I think the turret is separate, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But
That's
that's £20, right? Now, if I was a scale modeler and I thought I'm not really keen on wanting to build a Sherman tank, like you were saying, this will probably be the answer, because all you've got to really do is paint and weather it to your heart's content. So when it comes to 1/72 scale, and by the way, you've got loads of these models on your website now. Do you think this is where the gap is so small now that, would you say that at 1/72 scale for armor, what's the point in doing injection molding when you could design and print something off like this as 3D print?
It very depends. So, sake of argument, the two Shermans I did was a sandbag one, which we call that one, and the other one's a track Sherman. Now that's all the track on it. So we pride ourselves as putting as much physical, that's the track on it, and much detail as possible in it. So there's standoff on it, there's everything. Other people print differently.
Yeah.
The gap between them, I don't know as a modeler. Now, some people say to me, well, that's a waste of time because I want to build a model. That's fine if that's your choice, you want to build a model, but some people's hobby is painting and dioramas. It's not the building of a model is a beginning to an end, if you know what I mean. They need to get somewhere. But there's also lots of people who out there who just wants to build, who enjoy building kits and doing the whole process. So injection molding, I would say no, there's still a market for it. There's still what people want. People enjoy it. But I also find as I get older, I like slightly bigger things.
Yeah, I understand. But as I said, this to me, what's the point in building a 1/72 scale bit of armor when there's basically everything that you need? You've got your figures as well, which you don't get figures in 1/72 scale, do you? In a kit. I can't think of any model kit that I bought recently of a tank or something that does have a figure with it. It's normally at the 35th scale that you'll end up getting figures, but this is an all-in-one model for the sake of £20. And I'm just saying, is that gap really that small now between? I'm going to shout it out to the panel as well. Is the gap really that wide now? I'm just showing. That's a prime example of what it is.
I think they just love painting.
Yeah,
right.
Just for the
paint. They can purchase that for £20.
Yeah.
And they can just have a field day with it, right? They can just do whatever they want with it. It's everything's in place. They say, oh, well, some people are builders or assemblers or whatever, and not, weather people or whatever. There's, everything's is a bell curve, a spectrum, and so you're going to have people that are at the other end of that spectrum who they're not builders. They love to paint, right?
Yeah.
And so you can give them that, and that's their canvas for £20, right?
Yeah, that'd be $24 in Fahrenheit and feet and inches.
There is
dollars in gallons. That's right.
Yeah,
there is another thing for why we did it at that price as well, because we were at a lot of shows, and we speak to a lot of children, and I believe that the next generation coming through can learn from all of us, and that's 3D printing, modeling, painting, dioramas, everything. So there was a young family who basically a kid wanted a kit, couldn't afford it, and the dad said, I've got £28 on me. So what we did is we decided, we did a bit of research, and we found that a lot of kids enjoy modeling. They like the idea of it, but they got bored really, really quick by putting something together. So we thought, well, if we go down the route of doing what we're doing, they can actually have a model, they can put it together in about 10 minutes, and they can get straight on the paint, and then they got something they can show and get on and do. So that was one of the reasons why we did that as well, for that area and for the children coming through who might want to do models.
I was gonna say I sit in the opposite camp, I think, because I don't mind painting, but I prefer actually the building and the assembly rather than the painting. And for me, I see the 3D printing not as, oh great, now I've got for example a Jaguar or something, I can print a Jaguar, brilliant, and save myself. I actually see it more for me, because I'm a builder, as right, what can I print to add to it? What do I now have to not sit here whittling at resin or plastic that I can now go away, design, print off, and it will do the job, and it will fit much better. So I for me, whilst I love the idea of a very easy to put together Sherman, I'd also go, I'd want to build the thing. I'd get it done, and I'd be like, right, paint, great.
There's another aspect to this as well, and it raises a question relating to finish, and that is that having looked at a 1/48 scale 3D printed aircraft, where the necessity is for a very smooth finish, and to generate that by printed resin is actually quite difficult, from what I understand. Are you resolving that as you go, or how's that going?
So planes, I've done a few planes for people. I personally, it's a different minefield altogether. But from printing perspective, again, this is what I always say about printing: it's the material you use, the quality of material you use, and what your screen or printer you're running at resolution. But also, you need to understand your printer, because it depends on what angle you what angle you orientate your model. Is the best way to get a line. So the way I always describe it is, if you put a model like that and you've got a light shining there, you've got massive steps. As soon as you roll to that angle, those little steps become almost invisible. So it's all about how you cut a model and orientate a model to be able to get it to print the best it can.
Absolutely. I mean, there has to be thinking about this, but it highlights one of the fundamental differences, particularly in aircraft modeling, between 3D printed resin and injection molded plastic. And it is very simply that injection molded plastic can achieve a very, very fine level of finish on critical surfaces like aircraft wings and fuselage bodies. In tanks and things of this kind, it's going to be slightly less important, but in aircraft, particularly at larger scale, it's going to be extremely important. Now, it's not an insuperable problem, in the sense that, 3/4 of an hour with a sanding pad and that slightly ridgy finish, and it's inevitable that it will be the case that is what you get, can be resolved, because the surfaces are generally pretty uniform and quite easy to sand. One just has to be very careful with the little tiny pieces, because these things break off incredibly easily. And
I've got a tiny 3D printed Sea Eagle, like a very small one, and that's filament. That's not resin. And that has got very little lines on, but that's because I can't remember what K resolution printer, but it was the highest one at the time when I got these about 6 months ago. And that's incredibly smooth. And even though you can feel, like you say, the tiny little lines, I think as soon as you put even probably Tamiya fine primer on it, because again it's 70-second. The lines would just disappear naturally from just having that little coat of paint.
I did find with this was the Aerocraft Miles M52 for anybody that's interested. Where I didn't quite sand out the ridges, they showed up under primer, and I prime in grey just like we all do. And this shows up the tiniest imperfections. It's a great thing to do when you want to unify a surface. So look, it's not a criticism as such, and I wouldn't like people to think that it was. It's merely an observation of one of the challenges that 3D printing faces when you look at the direct comparison between it and injection molding. And it's one of the reasons to some extent why injection molding for certain things will continue to be the de facto method of use, or method of molding, or method of creating, shall we say. And I'm not over keen to transfer all my efforts over to 3D printing. I'll stick with the plastic because I do like to build, speaking purely personally. But I think there's something to be said for the synthesis of the two. And I do believe that we are beginning to see in the marketplace now examples of what I suspect people will start to call hybrid models, mixtures between 3D printed resin or filament and injection molded products. And this is only a good thing because it will get over probably some of the problems that you associate with poured resin upgrades, which is the difficulty of actually getting them to fit into models sometimes.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
And you have to do a good deal of butchery sometimes to make your upgrade fit. That's a bit challenging in itself. It's quite rewarding when it's finished, but it can be a challenge for some people, and I freely acknowledge that I'm one of those people. So there we are.
Right, let's go with some questions, which I thought was a good to start one. So there it is there. At the professional level, what is your print failure rate? I think these are going to get some questions now from some of the 3D guys who print on in their own home, small amounts.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I still get failures. It all depends. So when you first do a model and you've got to put all the pegs on to support. So we're talking about resin, not FDM.
Yeah.
So resin coming out of a vat of liquid, you are waiting on time to see what comes out. Normally, I would say my failure rate is drop. Say I do a figure, I'm probably about 80% sure it's going to work. It's the smaller parts that are more probably won't. So from that perspective, not as much as I used to get, but it also, again, it depends on like how often you change your FEP sheet, because the liquid sits in a vat of plastic basically.
Yeah.
That FEP sheet over time stretches, so you don't get the proper suck off the FEP sheet that pulls off the model.
Wow.
So a lot of people say, well, why isn't my printer not working? It could be that the FEP sheet hasn't been tensioned properly when you first put it in, or a lot of people tend to print, and I would say this for more home users, is that people tend to print models in the center of their resin printer. So people will say, well, how come? Because what you're doing is you're basically pulling a sheet of plastic from the center going up like that all the time.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, vary your models where you put them on your plate, so you get an even pull off your FEP sheet. So that reduce your failures. But I do say mine is a lot less than what it ever used to be, but I do get it. Everybody's going to get them.
Fair enough. How do you get around the fact that resin can be so brittle?
So that's through technologies changing. So there's different types of resin coming out at the moment. So there's toughened resin as well. There's like organic resin. There's all different types of resin. A lot of it boils down to is resin is brittle, but also depending on, this is what I always say to people about what we do as 3D Gizmo, is we don't rush our process. So our process, for example, I will do a resin figure it can take me anywhere between 10 and 18 hours to print a figure. We wash it in three different types of washes. We then blow dry it, we clean it, and it will sit on the side for 24 hours before we actually cure it underneath the UV light. So that all depends. So you can actually over cure resin. So if you over cure resin in a UV light, it will make it go really brittle. You can then also under cure it as well, but you got to find that sweet spot, and that's understanding the manufacturer's supply of resin, what you're using, how often you use it. So because I go through so much resin, I've had the experience of adjusting all my times and understanding what is brittle, you know, giving it a knock on the side, does the head fall off as easy as it did before, or get a test. You know, we've worked out particularly the resin we use, and the curing time is exactly 6.5 minutes. It's got other bits and weapons, we drop it a little bit. If it's got more bulk to the body, like a coat, we'll take it up to 7.5 minutes curing time. But a lot of it is about the type of resin you're using. You know, water washable resins, I always say to people there is a place for it, but within the modeling community, I find that people say, well, my model's cracked open after 6 months. That's because there's moisture still in the resin.
Yeah.
So it's all about what you use and how long you use it for. So I always say, as a user, from home user, again, this is where I say it's like a hobby, you need to experiment.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's interesting. I never, because I just assume, because I see it on YouTube. I've been watching before tonight. And you see them, they print the model out, they get it off the tray. The first thing they do, they put it in a washing machine, whiz it all up, and then they take it out and they put it in this UV curer, and that's it, done. Does it quite work like that, does it, I guess?
You can do, but your model's going to look rubbish. I'm being polite there.
Yeah.
You haven't necessarily washed off all the resin properly, and this is the thing, we use ultrasonic baths as well. So we have 3 stages of 3 different cleaning materials and fluids. Each one gets an hour in each. So that's 3 hours worth of cleaning per model, or per item. You know, that could be a bag, that could be a figure. There's a whole process in place.
Wow, incredible. What printers do you use, and how many do you have?
I hope my wife's not watching this, but I want to order 2 more. So I say to people that my printers are no longer standard. So I will buy a printer that could be off different manufacturers, but I instantly now get different rails in, screens in, and I change all that over. So I'm using my pro technology that I've come up with.
Yeah.
So I've changed it. I don't use anything above a 16K screen. Most of them are 12K screens on my resins. Between my resins and filaments, I'm running probably full-time 18 printers now, non-stop. Wow. But I have more than that sometimes are prototyping.
Incredible.
It may seem like a silly question.
Sorry,
go on, Moz.
Just say, you say you don't use, the maximum you go is 12. Is that the minimum you go is 12?
So 12K on the screen. So when you're using a UV, a lot of manufacturers saying, oh yeah, we've got the latest 16K, 18K screens, and it makes a difference. It does make a difference, don't get me wrong. But it also depends on the layer height you're printing at on a printer. Okay. So we've got 16K printers. I've got some which are more than that. I particularly have a printer was shipped to me from somebody, and I tested it. And by the time what I can look at, there isn't hardly any difference for the amount of money you're going to pay extra for a printer.
Because the Elegoo Saturn, the one that I was looking at to mess around with, they say that's a 16K one. And I'm thinking, oh, a 16K is bigger than 12. But then, like I said, 6 inch is bigger than 4 inch. You think because it's better, you think it's going to be better. But maybe, size matters. But like I said, 12K, 16K. So like if I name some brands to you that come up like Elegoo, that's a good brand to go for if you're a hobbyist.
Anycubic's a good brand as well. Yeah, I started off with Anycubics and stuff like that as well. All good machines. I also would say that Elegoo, from my experience, when I first started off, I used a lot of Elegoos. I had a lot of problems. Customer service was great. That company. So I'm not endorsed by any of these companies at all. The other one is Anycubic. I've used them before as well. Their customer service is good, but because they are based in another country, there is a time delay to get your replies. You might send it off in the morning, but they've got their holiday and you don't get another reply for 2 days. But generally it does get sorted.
Yeah. So that's hobbyist. Do you have professional level sort of 3D printers?
I have a couple which are, but from a standard was basically I'm buying more of the high-end consumer, normal consumer printers.
Yeah.
But then I'm spending probably another several £100 on upgrades as well per printer. So I might spend like £1,500, £2,000 on a printer.
Wow.
But then I'm also spending £500 on additional parts for that printer to change it to what I know how I can get them to work. And also, as a commercial side of things, it standardizes my printers. So when a part breaks, I've got a spare part which goes across the board.
That's a good shout.
That's why I do that for that reason.
I mean, I think. Sorry, I'll quickly.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, with 18 printers or so running 24 hours, what roughly is your electricity bill? Because that must be a significant amount of wattage constantly going through.
I might need to ask the wife because she looks after the finances.
Yeah.
All I know is we don't turn the heating on very much in the house anymore because we've got heating things. It's fine.
Yeah.
It isn't cheap. I couldn't say off the top of my head, but it's an awful lot more than you'd expect. The problem you have is that the resin printers run off a UV light, so it doesn't use as much power as an FDM printer. So, for example, an FDM printer, like I explained to people, you've got a heated bed, which is probably running anywhere between 30 and 50 degrees, depending on the material you're using, and then your nozzle's running at around about 190 to 200 degrees. Constant temperature, you've got your fans, your motors, all in that environment. That sucks a lot more electricity than the UV printer does.
Really?
Yes, a lot more.
So your recommendation is to put solar panels on your house?
I'd like to.
Facing the wrong way, isn't he? He's facing the wrong way.
I've got to admit, I was once looking at making it mobile in my van when I turn up at shows, but that ain't happening.
You don't get any sunlight in England.
Well, you should be able to quite easily introduce some efficiencies. You could use the operating of the printers to dry your smalls.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to put your name forward to my wife. She can give you a call and ask her some advice.
Well, it's not an original one. It's just the fact that when Colossus was running in the Second World War, the wrens that used to run the device used to dry their underwear because it was always hot because there was 1,500 valves in it.
Yeah. No, I've actually got friends who have 3D printers, and I know quite regularly their cats go and sit and sleep on them.
Yeah.
because they're actually heated.
Where do you see 3D printing in 5 years' time and then 10 years' time? I'm assuming that, and I think the push for 3D print to be better is because and it slapped me back for this, but somebody who's very into the space exploration, I think, I'm reading a lot that a lot of what's happening in this thought of going to Mars is the fact when they get there is nothing. And so there's a lot of companies who are investing in this technology so that they can take it to another planet and recreate everything from concrete blocks or some sort of, thing to do. Do you see that the technology, because over the last 5 years, just as pushing it out there, from what they were doing 5 years ago to what you're doing now is huge steps. Do you think that they'd be making even bigger steps now? Will it be more small increments? Like with computers, we had a big, over the 10 years, we went from like 4 kilobyte up to 1 megabyte, then went from 1 megabyte up to gigabyte. Is it the same for this? It's starting to get smaller increments now, or have we got to the end of the technology?
I think yes and no. I know it's a bit of a rubbish answer. The problem you've got is, so if you look at one of, say, my high-end printers to one of my lower-end printers, primarily they're exactly the same. So they've still got the motors, they've still got the rails, they've still got the belts, the fans, everything's the same. what the difference between the high-end one is the technology, which is cameras, AI, better motors in this side, so the technology shrunk. You've got servo motors, you're not losing all the steps on stepper motors. So I think as we go forward, principally from a 3D FDM print perspective, that is, it's changing, but I think there's more smaller steps of what they can produce. Like they're always gone about, let's print in 5 colors or 20 colors. Let's put 2 heads on, not 1 head on. Can we get a machine like, so I'm not going to name brands, but can a machine do more than just print 3D prints? Can it do laser engraving? Can it do everything as one machine? You know, like a Swiss Army knife. I think the technology is moving forward. From a commercial perspective, it's jumping leaps and bounds. I know a company that I've helped who do deliveries, and they basically were getting parts from another country. Their machine went down, they were waiting for weeks. They now have a printer, they can print in nylon, print cogs and gears, and get their actual, you know, depots back up and running again. So the technology is, where it's still youngish, it's getting into businesses now, and it's becoming more acceptable for businesses. For the more super tech kind of side of stuff, printing 3D boats and buildings and bridges out of metal, that technology I think is at a infant stage, so it will jump.
Star Trek replicators, 3D printed chicken soup.
It's the same with everything in the commercial sector. It's the bloody market that decides.
Yes.
We're in a position, and I've done a little bit of research on this, and I've seen things in the commercial sector that I was a bit amazed about. And can we produce things that are very, very hard wearing on 3D printers? Yeah, absolutely we can. They can go into some really quite nasty environments and not break. You know, standard, you know, plastic, you know, 3D resin like this, you can break it in half quite easily. The stuff I've seen being used as siren sound diverters, which are about sort of this length, and you put a siren in at one end and it goes out the front like that. Very, very tough indeed. Very, very strong. And the market will demand this, and people will provide it. It'll be expensive at the start, and it'll get cheaper, and it'll probably get cheaper really, really quickly. We will get to a point where good quality 3D printing will be available more or less to anybody, but that's probably not in my lifetime, given that I'm in my very late 30s now. So you know, it's probably not going to be in my lifetime, but it will come. But you have to let the market do it. You can't do it any other way.
How expensive, you know, gigantic LCD TVs were. 10 years, right?
Well, that moves on to the question from Nick Johnson. You know, are we in a Betamax VHS battle with the filament or resin printing, Dave? You know, I presume it's horses for courses, isn't it? Dave?
I'm too young to get that reference. I don't understand it.
Okay.
You said that.
Hang on, Dave. I was aimed at Dave. Sorry, I'm going to jump in a minute.
So there is definitely two sides. FDM is good for one thing, resin's good for another purpose. It depends on which technology you want to use. So, sake of argument, I'm currently working on a project to do a no-tech light for a restoration vehicle. So basically, they can't get hold of one. They've asked me if I can do it. I said that's fine. So we're incorporating like a steel tube within the side of it. We're using different wall thickness, different materials, UV sensitive, everything to go with that. Would I print that in resin? No. Would I print in FDM? Yes. There is commercial technology out there that you can use, which is SLS and all different types of stuff, which is like powder and melting plastic. You can use that. That's a commercial side, but you're looking like £20,000-30,000 a machine. The materials are more expensive. So you've got to ask what's commercially viable. So I would do it on FDM, not resin.
Somebody said that we're talking about, you know, people saying that with filament FDM, you're always going to get that grain, the lines.
Yeah, they call them striation lines. Yeah, you call them striation lines. So from my perspective, you will get it. At the end of the day, you are putting a bead of plastic down. That is what you're doing. You're putting a bead of plastic. It's like I always say to people, get 2 straws, stack them on top of each other, you've got a gap.
Yeah.
Now, the only difference is that, so I print on, so people who do know 3-minute, I print on some of my stuff on a 0.2 nozzle at a layer height of 0.08, which is basically thin as human hair. You can literally not feel, you can run your fingernail down it, you might feel it, but you look at it, it's the same as injected molded almost. It's that good quality. But your time will double or triple on what you're trying to print. So if you're doing a 20, 30 hour print, that becomes 50, 60, 70 hours. So it all depends on, like I say to people, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, certain sites, auction sites, stuff like that, there's a lot of people who are taking files, producing them, selling them as quickly as possible, and the quality is not very good at all. So I always say to people, like, a lot of my stuff on my website is I don't personally do print on demand. So if somebody get orders off me, I then go and print it. Everything on my site that I have is in stock. If it's out of stock, I print it, I put it back in stock, and then I sell it. Purely for the fact is that I'm not rushing the process. I want to make sure it's correct and right what we do. That's the same with FDM. I always say to people, slow your machine down, slow it down, thinner lines, thinner layer lines, the better quality you're going to get.
Understand. Yeah. I was there's somebody mentioned that when I was talking about, I think it was in one of the diecast group, and they said, you get those lines, and they said, but the thing is though, we've had lines on furniture for years. When people have built wooden furniture, there's always that grain, isn't it? It's just a way of trying to make the grain part of the build, I guess, or part of the aesthetic of something. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can, what was I going to say then? Yeah, you can enhance if we're in a model. We're worried about the layers, but when it comes to something bigger, like if you're producing a part or something for a car, maybe you incorporate that like they do with carbon fiber. These structurally carbon fiber is amazing. It looks hideous, but then when some people spray it up with a bit of gloss or something, it looks fantastic. Well, that's carbon fiber, that is. So, yeah, I don't think that will be a burden to anyone or a reason not to buy something.
The little tip on lines, on the striation lines on film print. So a lot of people do cosplay, so they produce a lot of helmets and stuff like that through FDM. And within the industry, a lot of people use Modip spray putty. So it's actually an automotive car spray putty. It's like a filler. It is thicker than like a Halford's primer or a Halford's filler. And it sands really. You can just basically go over with, let's say, I don't know, a 240 grit sandpaper over your model, over the helmet. You spray it off to make sure it's completely dust free, like you would a car. Spray it over the Modip spray putty, and basically it puts a nice layer on. When it sands back and it comes off like dust. And basically it fills between those lines.
Yeah, I did that with my 3D printed Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier.
Yeah,
I got the automated putty because from the place I bought it from is one of the I think it was like the 3rd or 4th print, and the lines were heavy, and even when I tried to spray it, fill it with putty, I had to sand it down continuously. But again, now once I've done it about 6-7 times, basically the carrier deck, because that was the bit I wanted to make sure was absolutely flat, is now like a billard table, completely flat, beautiful. But without that spray putty, if I tried normal, even let's say Halford's primer, not a chance it would have been flat.
Wouldn't those lines be quite handy for a replacement ship deck?
They wouldn't be, because it's certainly at 1-350 you don't really want any lines, because
even with planking ship decks.
Yeah, but you can't predict where they're going to be, John. That's the problem. They're constant,
Well, I don't really understand the process.
Yes, effectively, you can imagine it's printing vertically most of the stuff, and it is just the striation lines will be across constantly.
Right, so you'd have to have the deck made vertically to have it worth.
Very long planks, the length of the ship, you don't want that.
No. As I said, because you got to remember that printing is all to do with gravity anyway. Whether you're using resin or filament, it's all to do with the gravity. If it's going to point down, you know, those were saying, you know, could you 3D print in space? Well, no, there's no gravity, is there? I don't think it would work, would it? If you had to print in space,
there is a new technology they're bringing out that you can actually 3D print in a gel block.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, a needle goes into a gel block and extrudes the material out through the actual needle into the gel, and the gel is the carrier and holder of the model.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What are the lines like on that?
I don't know. I can't afford it.
I wish you would if you could.
Yeah.
I've seen 3D printing in a tank of resin, and you got lasers firing all around it. Then you raise a podium, the model comes out. So that was on the telly some years ago.
But that is, yeah. What is that? Right. So 3D printing. When it comes to resin, is there a particular brand? Is there a particular mix, or is there something you do with the liquids before you print, or are you just buying off the shelf?
So I buy well, I basically use standard chemical resin. So it's not a waterable, washable resin. This is a chemical-based one. So it's not harmful, but you need to wash it with an IPA.
Yeah.
Basically, it cleans it off and it evaporates properly, is what it should do. I actually have come up with a formula of mixing two resins together. So I do like a 60 to 40 ratio of maybe a toughened resin and a standard resin to mix both together to give it that extra strength I need. So again, it depends on what I'm making and the ratios I mix, but a lot of people will use the Sunlaw resin. I've used it before as well. I've done my daughter's models in them when she wants them. They do great colors and different variants as well.
Miss Modeler, 3D prints is so nice. If I had a spare room that had a proper ventilation in, I'd do it, but sadly I don't. But I bought a few 3D printed resin kits now, and they're generally quite nice. Yeah, you know, I've got. See, the trouble is when I think of resin kits, I think of cast, and I think a lot of you here are kind of agree. It's always cast resin. Do you think that's the end of cast resin now? That now it's easier to do with a 3D print with a 3D printer?
I personally would say yes, but I don't know what, as you lot as modelers, and that's down to you. You know what you think. I know you used to get air bubbles and they're on blocks, and you don't get standoffs. So like a lot of my figures, if you look at the epaulets, there's a standoff underneath. So you can actually underneath the epaulet at 1/16 scale. So a lot of cast resin would be flat or it'll be a block. I don't know as you as modelers what you would say.
I just feel that you're totally right. I've you know, this one here, I'm in the process of building it now. This is a 3D. I'll go bigger a minute so we can see me. This is a cast resin. It's going to be a Caterpillar forklift, and you can see this is all cast resin, and it came with a massive block underneath.
Yeah.
That I had to cut carefully down, and in the end, I ended up cutting it at an angle. Then I spent the next, 20 minutes with sandpaper on a block, going forwards and back, trying to remove the best I could. I think I got it pretty much flat. You can just see. Let me see that if I put the old thing up, you can just see there. You can see where the block was just by just inside there. You see where the block, and but to do it, if I went any further, I would have rounded off the edges. So I've had to leave them there to make it completely flat.
That's a lot of resin.
But I just think that like you said, if you were doing it as 3D printed, you would have the supports. Are they called supports?
Yeah, you can print supports, print trees.
Print tree, underneath. So you'd have it off slightly, and you wouldn't have to do much work. You just slip them off and just rub them back and fill in the little divots, I guess, because that's one thing you do see on the cast side, on the resin side, it does have the little divots where the supports were. But I'm assuming you just rub them out. Do you just sand them out? I guess.
Some people do. Some people run a small little bit of putty over them, and then just sand, depending on what you use.
Yeah,
I think from the point of view of ship modelers, because there still were heavily cast resin is still available in the market, but when you get a 3D printed version, for example, I know Atlantic Models, they do a cast C-dart, whereas Dorset Printman does a 3D printed one.
Yeah.
The 3D printed one at that scale is so much better by miles. It's not even comparable. That essentially, I think certainly for the smaller scales, cast resin is done, finished, and people will only buy it if there isn't a 3D alternative. As soon as there is a 3D alternative, I'm afraid to say I think that cast is done, consigned to the bin.
Yeah.
For the bigger stuff, I think like yours, Moz, I would say there's still a little bit of probably a slight. The market will stay alive a little bit longer, but for the small stuff, I think the cast is dead.
I mean,
I think-
if you look at something like this, this is a control column for a 1/24th scale Mustang. Now, you can do this in poured resin via a mold, but it's going to be difficult. But the delicacy of the detail on this that you can see and you can observe it very easily it's so exquisite that you couldn't possibly get to this level of detail with cast resin. It would be a pale imitation. And for that reason, I think that 3D printing stands to really just replace all of that stuff, and to do so with much greater ease. Gone is the sanding of the block. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, I've got a quick way of doing it, one of these whizzy devices, but the dust gets bloody everywhere, and you want to cover your face up against it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that was one of the questions here with Aaronville is, can you sand resin or FDM models if you need to? Is it best to use a replicating sander rather than hand sanding?
So on that one, I can straight up say yes and yes. You can sand both. Resin with no shadow of doubt, always wear a mask. It's resin. It's dangerous stuff. It's super fine. It gets finer than talcum powder. It can get in your lungs. There's no two ways out. I always say safety first. You can use a small Dremel replication when you're doing resin. FDM, I always say to people, you can use like an orbital sander, but I don't recommend it because you're basically heating up the plastic and you'll ruin it. I always say, it's a joke on the side, I have more nail files than my wife does if I'm doing my models. I've literally got, all the grits and nail files, and I sand it down by hand, and you get a feel for it as well. But yes, you can, but you have to be very careful on FDM.
Yeah. And also, one tip I was told by Gary Gremlins, he said, when I was sanding down this, he said, basically, put water down on the sandpaper, use water, and that will stop the dust from getting everywhere. And you can with wet sand the resin, which is a safer way of sanding down resin. Okay, so
not called wet and dry sandpaper for nothing.
Yeah, I got some Scorpion 3D cast resin engine bits, and there's a mistake in it because one of the pipes isn't long enough, and they said I'll just cut a bit off of. I was thinking if they didn't cast that, they could have easily just changed the design on the program to make that pipe a bit longer. So it could be as I said, it's that design. If you look at inside the armor for the stuff they're doing on the Stalwart, resin, the resin cab roof, etc., and the exhaust, that's all done with 3D resin, and it looks amazing. What about clear parts, etc.? Where's 3D print when it comes to that now? Is we get these beautiful and we all know how canopies are made on a scale model. Is that when they've cut the metal work, they've buffered up that surface to a mirror finish, hence why you get that real clear. Could you do clear with resin to get that sort of finish or not?
So currently you can't, to a degree, depending on the resin you're using. So I've done some testing of clear resins for companies, and they call it crystal clear, they call it clear. It's good, but you still got that, it's not milky or misty, but it's still got a haze, and you do need to wet sand it and then polish it.
Yeah.
So yes, it's possible.
It is possible, but it's a lot of effort.
A lot of work.
Yeah. You know, people saying here about the 3D resin will take over, but there's just in the options for bigger models. I get that 3D Prism has got a place because, you know, before we had injection kits, there were certain models you could only get as vac form, and we all know how bad vac form is. So, you know, but I think there'll be a fair balance between what's 3D printed in a kit and what's going to be injection molded. It's going to be a standard thing anyway. So, will 3D printing get its own category at competition level? Here you go, Jim. You don't know. You don't think so, do you? You think that it isn't that now, is it? It doesn't matter about having its own category. It's basically it's not plastic though. That's the problem you've got. Resin isn't plastic. Have we kicked the bear here, Jim? You being the model judge.
You've awoken him now.
Has been opened.
Yeah.
Careful, don't anger him.
Go on, Jim.
I've got questions on this one. Then that's good. That is.
Yeah.
So, the big thing over here is, yes. And what's the difference if I go out and buy a 3D printed aftermarket part from whatever XXX manufacturer and I put it on my model, or I design it myself? Well, there really is none. What really gets into the weeds is when we get into scratch building categories. Over here at the national level, there is a scratch building category where you take this stuff, plastic, and you physically create it with your hands, and you cut and you do it all. And then you have the people that have the computers, the programs and everything, and they know they have the knowledge, like they go in and, you know, spend X amount of hours designing this thing, printing it, and then boom, here you go. And a lot of the pro CAD people will say, well, that's just as hard to do as scratch building something physically. And we'll define hard. Well, what's hard for one isn't hard for another. Okay, it's just a different skill set. What I would say is, yes, they're two inherently different skill sets. So then we probably should have two different types of categories for them. We've got a special vac form category because it's a different type of model than an injection molded model is. So because vac forms are just sheets vac formed down over molds, and then you cut the parts out and put them together. Okay, so then why can't we have, or maybe we should have, that when it comes to that, where somebody has designed a piece completely on their own, or they bought a 3D model, okay, and they hit the print. They bought that 72nd scale Sherman, and they hit the print model, and they've got it, and now they're into their jam of painting and weathering, you know. And you know, I've been silent for a lot of this, but I do see in the future, this is modeling is going through, I think, a huge change. Like what, and I said last week, and Spencer Pollard made mention of this. It's becoming a painting exercise more than it is a model building exercise anymore. We just had SMC over the weekend, and that was a painting show, a figure painting show, and it's morphing into, because they're trying to get more people in, but the emphasis isn't so much on building and construction. It's all about the finish. Okay, and then that's another whole weeds that we can go down, what constitute finish. But where, you know, as far as, and I wanted to make this comment earlier, is where I see the real beauty in 3D printing, while will it ever overtake scale or injection molding? Well, maybe. Who knows what the future holds? It certainly has, I think, and I think Dave would agree with this. In the figure world, I think you see a lot more 3D printed figures than you do the hand sculpted ones, where they're cast and molded and poured and that, just because the process is easier. You've got Blender, you've got you know, Fusion 360, but then the other programs that they've spoke about being able to get in and mold and and make these faces and whatever in the digital realm. It's just, that's the way figure sculpting, I think, is going, to where you can hit that mass print button and now everybody's got figures to do it. But as far as a contest goes, eventually, and this really isn't new. I remember the old head judges talking about this back in the aughts, 7, 8, 9. They were talking about, hey, this is something that's going to have to be addressed. And of course, IPMS hasn't addressed it yet, but eventually they will.
I think, but you said them IPMS. P is for plastic.
You get hung up on semantics, because resin could be classified as a plastic in some instances, In
some instances, but but resin printed isn't plastic.
But if you want to go down that road, then you're going to have to. And this is where culturally, I think we have a disconnect over across the pond. Over here, we try to be inclusive. As much as I hate that word, I mean, we don't disqualify models because they're in the wrong category. We don't disqualify models because they're not plastic. We don't disqualify anything really for any reason. We go out of our way to try to get things where they need to be in regards to a category. If it's so out of the realm of everything, we'll make a new category if there's enough interest shown by participation. Hell, 2016 we had 3 ginormous wooden ships. I think it was the Nina, the Pina, and the Santa Maria. Guy Scratch built them all out of wood, and they were beautiful. We didn't want to tell them no, because then that goes online and blows up, and IPMS, what let me, and it's just like, we don't want it. So it's easier to put that fire out at the beginning, say, yeah, sure, go ahead,
From my perspective, sorry to interrupt you on that one.
What's that?
Sorry, just to add one question. As not a like modelers that you all are, you guys do all the modeling, the painting stuff. Surely sometimes it could come down to the being creative side. To have a subject of creative side, somebody who spends lots of hours putting a tank together, then painting it, and then displaying that. Then when somebody might have got a resin kit, really fantastic, spend 5 minutes putting it together, but then spent another 30 hours on a diorama. Does it not become creative side of somebody looking at a competition?
As far as judging goes?
Yeah.
So again, what we do over here, versus what happens like over in Europe, it's more, to your point, Dave, it's more about the creativity, and the judges will pick out what they like. I like what they did here. I think it's creative. Okay. Over here, not so much, because what we try to do is take, and this is where it all blows up.
Yeah.
And we try, and we have a set rules and standards that we apply to every model. Okay. That's really the only fair way we can judge it. We take, and I got subjective, objective. I always get these two mixed up. We be as objective as possible. We apply the rules to this one, to this one, to this one, to this one, and then we all group them together. And how do they compare to each other? And that's the gold, silver, bronze open guys. They hate that part, because they want to be able to come in and be like, well, this one inspires me when I really like this one. Well, I abhor that, because I, as an entrant, want to be judged by my peers, amongst my peers. I want a fair criteria applied to all models. I don't want to come in, and because I don't know what judge I get, what he likes, then how do I inspire a judge? I don't know, because I don't know what inspires him. All I can do is build a model to the best of my ability, according to a set rules of standards. Everything's got to be straight.
You don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's why I can appreciate the artistry in our craft. People say, is this a art, or is this is this art? Well, no, to me it's a craft with artistic elements. So if we're gonna go, and a lot of guys I've gone round and round with a lot of guys about this. I look at it as a linear approach. I start at A, I get to Z. I can start with construction, I can end with finish. But with the guys that love the gold, silver, bronze open system, that want to be inspired by 33 layers of paint, that's fine. Prepare your canvas, get your wheels straight, make sure your road wheels on your tank are going up in the air. And that happens a lot, because a lot of guys don't like the manufacturing part. Who cares if the wheel's a millimeter out? Who cares if the road wheel's flying up in the air? Who cares if there's a seam on the leading edge of a wing? Who cares if there's a glow in the canopy? I spent 8 months doing this great paint job because they're about the paint, because that's their job, and that's fine. But in an IPMS contest where I, as a judge, have to evaluate all these models, well, I got to start somewhere, and that's the most fair way that we can do it is you start at construction and you go all the way through. And you might have a beautiful, I've seen a lot of beautifully painted models that look really flipping cool, but their wheels are this.
The headlight lenses are crooked.
And the bombs aren't right, and the whole thing leans, and you're just like,
that's it.
So, but in a roundabout way, you know, and that's where what Dave does provides a product that is straight, because when you print it, it's going to come out straight. The treads are on, the road wheels are on, you know, and you've got this piece that now you cater to your market, which is the guys that don't care about putting it together. They care about the fun stuff. Now on to the fun stuff, painting and weathering, because that's their jam. That's what they're all about.
And
Play to them, you know.
I think you're right on what you're saying. One thing I've taken away from all the shows that I've been to and all the guys I've spoken to, everything, I don't know if you agree with this, but regardless, you're a scratch builder, you're a kit builder, you're a 3D printer like I am, you build it from nothing, or you're a painter, or whatever you are, we all have one thing in common. We do it because we enjoy it. And bottom line, as a community of people I've never met who are watching this today, end of the day, you're at a show, come and say hello to me, you don't have to buy anything, just come and have a chat, because isn't that what it's about? You know, we had a guy, classic example, came to our stand, didn't put a cage couple bits, he just came over this one time, and my wife looked at him, my wife's a hugger, and she went, do you want a hug? And he gave her a hug and almost cried, and he had been given 3 days prior to that, he'd been given the all clear from cancer and never told anybody. And my point is, though, the modeling community is that's what we're all about. And regardless of what we do, you know, people who are into like rivet counters and stuff like that, regardless of who you are, children doing it, we're all here because we enjoy it. We all enjoy the hobby. And that's the fundamental.
And that's kind of like Moz said about IPMS, plastic, and we put wood chips in, and it's just like, whatever. We can make however many rules to do whatever we do in categories and such to get everybody in to do what they like to do. If it's hit the print button and paint, great. We can put you over here. If you want to build wooden ships, okay, we can put you over here. You know, there is room for everybody. And
I think that'll be the question for the future is, do they drop the P out of IPMS? But that's a debate for another day. But I can see.
Well, no. They won't drop the P because the P is going to change to painting instead of plastic.
Right, folks, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to quickly do it. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds. We're going to just show off what our next model shows are coming up this year, and we've even got a new one put in for January. So we'll quickly play this and just advertise the model shows. I was just thinking, Dave, you go to about 3 of them, won't you? You got Yeovil, Scale
Yeah.
Model Show. Are
Yeah.
you doing Cardiff?
No, we're doing Bugle Call.
You're doing Bugle Call. That's good. That'd be a good one for you, Bugle Call, because that is military figures, isn't it? Bloody hell.
And then Bolton as well in January.
Oh yeah, you do Bolton instead of the Cardiff one, don't you?
Yeah.
See, I'm stuck within a rock and a hard place because my model club goes to the Cardiff one, and now I've been made secretary of the model club. I'm gonna have to go to that one, but yeah, as soon as I get the poster for Bolton, I'll put that on the list. But I said to anyone who does know of model show coming up, either this year or next year, we try and just go through them on this show that you can see what's coming next. And honestly, model shows is the backbone of our hobby. I really do believe that. You will always be inspired by at least a model or two when you go and come away spending a fortune as well. So, but yeah, I'll be at Yeovil, Bugle Call, and Cardiff, and also Scale. You're with Froome, aren't you, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, you're with Froome. So if you want to go and meet Dave, if you're going to Yeovil, you see him at Yeovil. If you want to meet him at Scale Model Show, which I think a lot of people will be going who watch this channel, go over to the Froome Scale Model table, and I think you've split the
So me and Luke are sharing stand together. So we are in Hall 1 on the back wall, myself and Luke. So come along and see us. Luke's got a great collection of stuff, and so have I. And I'll be honest with you, it's a great bunch of people, his whole group of friends and stuff like that, and we all mix and talk. So come and say hello to all of us.
Brilliant. I'll also put the website back up in the chat as well. So if you want to go and visit 3D Gizmo website, I promise you, if you have any questions or comments, there's a contact page on that website. And as I said, I've never not had a response from you, Dave, about anything. It's you know, I think I'm not trying to blow smoke at your ass, but I think when I go to Scale Model shows, you're one of your group, your wife included, are some of the most approachable people. And you've never forced the model kit on me. I'm just ending up pulling me money out of my pocket anyway. Yeah, take me money, just take me money. Like you know,
we enjoy the company of the people as well, and that's the difference. I have a full-time job on top of this as well, but I do this full-time as well. You know, and everything. But it's about the community we all create, and part of that is we know people are in the forces, ex-military. People have all got walks of life and issues. We're inclusive of everybody, no matter who you are. Come and have a chat with us, because that's what it's about. Get to know us, we get to know you.
Exactly that. So yeah, go on.
Don't forget Model Zone on November 1st here in Phoenix, Arizona. Everybody come down.
Yeah, just go fine.
Yeah, I think you.
Yeah, see you there, Jim.
I would honestly say, if I don't like building dioramas, I don't detest it. I'd rather build plastic and paint and that. But if I was going to do a diorama for some of the urban vehicles that I'm in the process of building, Dave on his website does some cracking diorama bases, buildings, and all sorts. I think you do them from you do 1/72 and 1/30. You do 1/48 as well?
Not at the moment, but we are looking at that at the moment. We've been asked for buildings in other bits and pieces for that.
Yeah, that's it. 1/32 and 1/35 you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you also do those roads as well. If you want to build yourself a little road, you can buy little sections of road. Honestly, what they're doing is, you're saying this is a hobby. You've not turned this into a full-time business, then, Dave? No.
I do it full time. Like literally, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm normally doing stuff before I go to work. As soon as I finish work, I come back. I'm probably doing this till 11, 12 o'clock at midnight every night.
Wow.
With customers. And I'll be honest with you, every weekend I'm easy 15 hours each day. So 30 hours a weekend doing this as well. But the thing is, I enjoy what we do. And it's about, I get a great pleasure, and so does my wife, when people bring stuff over to us and show us stuff, what they've done with it. But also, like I said, it's all about the community of people, and we enjoy it. So we're always coming up with different things and different bits and pieces.
Yeah, I'm pretty much sure that I think you must get a real sense of pride when you go to some of the into the competition area and you see some of your buildings and
It's
whatnot in on display there. So
it's the little things like the accessories. When you see it on a vehicle, you go, "Yeah, I know that."
Oh, that's nice, man.
Yeah. It always looks good. But yeah, he does 1/72 scale buildings. The aircraft hangar is a delight, actually. I think when I see you at Yeovil, I'll end up buying one of them because I think that really, if you could do a diorama with a plane just outside of it, like, and a plane inside, and it does look special. And on the 135th as well.
Yeah, you can scale everything, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a 3D, it's digital.
Within reason, yeah.
Yeah, within reason. Yeah, I got you. Because build height and stuff. Yeah.
But we've been asked for 1/16 buildings, and that's just getting into a realm of like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, it gets a bit much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, so I'll put the link into.
Very
it's
nice.
also in the description of the video as well to his website. And again, you can't fault what you see here. And as I said, and personally, I think it's all reasonably priced. Where you're going to get a 135th church for under 70 quid. All right, if you just look at the pictures there, they look delightful. And you can do so much with this. And I know people say, "Oh, taking the craft out of doing it with plastic card and foam." But do you know what? There's a lot of us here that want to just concentrate on the build of the model. And to be fair, these models have got all the textures on them and everything, and just a couple of sprays of paint on it, and just add a little bit of moss and whatever, and you've got yourself a lovely little diorama. For me, it's not about it. Basically, a diorama for me is about enhancing the model that's on display, sort of thing. So, do you do things like aircraft carrier decks or things like that, or runways or anything like that out of 3D?
Not at the moment. I've been looking at runways.
Yeah.
I have been asked for that, but again, it's learning the type of runway for the country you're in.
Yeah.
What lines do they have? Because it is like the patterns of the lines, and that's the aviation side of things. Which I've got a file I'm working on to gather that information. Again, it's knowing people like all of yourselves who might know the planes or build a certain era of plane. What did they use back then? Not necessarily about like the tarmac, but it's about the markings on the roads, on the actual runways.
Yeah.
Well then.
So, as a former aircraft rescue and firefighting guy, crash rescue, whatever you want to say, my last 12 years of my career here in Phoenix, I will say, at least, and I would say it's pretty standard, as English is the standard language, aviation markings per se, at least at the commercial level, are all the same all over the world. Okay. Where you will find a lot of differences is in tarmac surfaces. Russians are famous for having those hexagonal stop sign looking plates that they'd throw down, or they'd have the long rectangular plates, and then more of your Western Europeans where it's poured concrete that are sectioned off and then have your little cracks in them. So your surface, I would think you would have much more or many more differences than just your signage.
Yeah.
But you would find that out the more research you did.
Yeah, I'm trying.
It's getting the people on board, isn't it, Dave? And also time is money. I don't, and like I'm saying, I was saying about Dave here on 3 Gizmo, but even on the plastic side of it, you can buy Marsden plates from ICM, injection molded. It will save you time than having to go individually putting the markings on a bit of foam. It's all, depends what you want to do. And it doesn't deviate from or take away from your modeling. It's just that some people want to do something a bit more quicker. And if you've got the tools to do it, then, they're there if you want to spend the money. Exactly. So, but yeah, a US carrier deck launch. Yeah. That would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah, I can see all that.
Photos, I'll have a look. If anybody's got any photos out, send it to me. I'll see what I can come up with.
I'm catapult for ships.
Yeah, catapult for ships.
Catapult for ships.
I'm even 130 off my final project at the moment, so I'm trying to get that done at the moment.
Do you
anything
do?
you want to? Go on.
Sorry,
Guys.
do you do dispersal stands to go with those hangars?
Dispersal huts.
No, the stands the aircraft sit on when they're outside the hangar.
Not at the moment. I have got one that I've got somebody working on for me.
Right, so you're working on aprons as well. That's fine.
Yeah, that's why you get one.
So somebody dared me to do a 1.6 LRDG, as you've seen.
Yeah.
That one I do. I've just finished about to start assembling the Dodge WC-51 weapons carrier in 1.6 scale.
Oh,
wow.
That'll be at Yoga.
That'll be at Yoga, will it?
Yeah.
How long does it take to print something that big?
So the LRDG in 1.6 scale took 900 hours.
My God.
But then I am breaking it across multiple printers, but it's still a physical equivalent of 900 hours printing.
Incredible.
To give you an idea how long that is, that's 5 months in 40-hour weeks.
Yeah.
900 hours.
But if you have 18 printers going at an hour, that's 18 hours per hour. So
that's mad, isn't it?
It is. That's crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah. That's
But
without any design work, doing anything to it, failed prints to get it to the point where it is now.
Incredible. Right, we're at the last 15 or 20 minutes. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, not necessarily about printing or anything like that, but if you've got any questions. Question, would Dave have the 135th buildings at Telford for sale? Simon's asking.
I will have the whole collection at Telford.
Wow.
Yeah.
So get there on a Saturday because I think you're going to sell out.
We are going to have all our kit. We normally, because we are a small business, we only normally bring about, for the buildings, normally in 135th, 8 of each.
Yeah.
So, but we do have, a lot of stuff we are bringing.
Brilliant. I can imagine that camper van being quite full. Are you staying in a hotel, Dave, or are you going to be in the camper van? Oh, you are this time.
No, the camper van's gone, mate. We had to sell it to get a normal van to fit everything in.
Yeah.
We've changed our display quite a bit, so it's on nice metal rackings now and stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's all changed. But we're staying in the hotel Premier Inn. If anybody's staying at Premier Inn, just at the road in Telford, you see us with our tops on again. Come and say hello outside. Come and have a beer.
Moss is thinking curry dinner, right?
Yeah, that's it, curry. I'm up there in the hotel. Yeah, we actually booked an Airbnb for the model club.
Nice.
So I think it's like a 3 or 4 bedroom that sleeps 6. But it's all right because I think one of the lads will get a room each, and I'll end up being on the couch, like no point in sharing beds, top and tail, because the naughty bits are still in the middle, sort of thing.
Miles, I've got a hotel. You can have the bathtub.
Yeah. Many nights I've woken up in a hotel bathtub. Yeah, definitely. So if you've got any more questions, please put them in the chat. Just very quickly, there was a lot of talk about the Airfix Mosquito. The new parts in that Mosquito have been developed since they tooled that Mosquito 5 years ago. If you want to see a really good video about the differences between the original Mosquito that was launched back in 21 to what they've done now, where they've put the hand up, they flew a flag and said, "Yeah, we scanned the wrong Mosquito here." They've redeveloped they've retooled a new sprue they've tooled a new sprue of parts that will basically change and make it more accurate. The video is by Captain VFC Matt. If you want to go and have a look at it, I haven't got the link on me at the moment. I don't think. I haven't got the link for it.
It's quite high on the list if you just put Mosquito on YouTube.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic. It's had about 5K views. There it is.
Yeah.
Great as well.
It's definitely worth having a look at that if you want to go and have a look. I'll post a link in it for go and support him, give him a like, give him a subscribe to that video. I think he's done I'm not going to bother doing it because I think, I didn't know about the situation until I read Brit Modeler and I was called a shill on there because I'm an Airfix fanboy. I was called a shill for Airfix. I couldn't believe it. But, you know, I was, you know, I went on there and since then, like the guys even posted on one of my videos that, I think it was on the 3 changes of Airfix that I did. He put a negative comment. I've left it up there so people can go and comment on it. Basically calling me a shill on that as well, but he's used a fake profile obviously for that. So, but yeah, if you want to watch a video on that, that's a really good one to look for. Matt Captain VFC on his Mosquito. So yeah, that's it on that side of it. So I did say I would mention it, but as I said, it's not a tooling that they thought about in 2021 and just released new parts for it. No, they went away and recreated it. And there's a Workbench blog as well about it. So any questions on that, go and read that. So, which is all good. I can't think of anything else that someone's asked me this week. I don't think Airfix America is closing. I think they've closed their warehouse, but the company Hornby USA is still alive and kicking. I've got the impression that they'll be doing what Tamiya does. They'll be getting it imported by companies over there. Their products, like in this country, we have Tamiya, Italeri, hobby company import all the Tiger hobbies with Ryfield model. All the Chinese stuff comes over with them. So they're
around as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically it, really. And I think Hornby's doing exactly what they're doing. But Hornby USA isn't closing. It's just they are thinking out, they're changing the way they're distributing their kits. And I think it's a good way because if you've got an importer, they can then, navigate all this tariff jargon that's happening. And as I said, but Hornby USA as a company, well, they're not closing. They're still called Hornby USA. So I've got told on a few from not inside, but just looking outside the box and seeing what's going on. Hornby USA isn't going anywhere. It's just they've not going to sell directly on the website. They're going to go to distributors instead, which is I think it's a good move for them actually. Not many companies don't use importers anymore, or to get their goods into other realms. I think even Australia, all they do is import to Australia, don't they? They don't have a Hornby Australia or Hornby Asia. They just get the goods imported to the distributors out there, and I think that's the same with America. I think that's all I've got to say about that. So any more questions for Dave? Panel, have you got any more questions for Dave?
No. Can I just circle back to the IPMS?
Yeah.
Last year, our 3D guru got a prize for her studio scale Slave 1.
Yeah.
Now, even though it was 3D printed, it wasn't printed as one piece. It was printed as a kit.
Yeah.
And then obviously it assembled. What she got the prize for, I don't know. I can't remember. I did go try to find it, but I can't find it.
Yeah.
So it was still a kit, but the individual parts were 3D printed.
Yeah.
This year she's done the ship from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she wasn't there Thursday. So I don't know how far she's gotten, but apparently she's going to take it this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's been ill, so I've not had any updates.
Her work is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I first saw her at North Devon show, and she did. What was it she had put up? It was it like a supercar, wasn't it, or something? It was it was a landscape car.
I don't know. I can remember. You couldn't miss Slave 1. It was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I say, this year it was. I think I don't know its name. It was the ship from. Was it Guardians of the Galaxy? I can't remember.
Yeah. But that's it though. If you've got the talent, maybe that's something you could eye up to help you with your design work, Dave.
Yeah, I know her very well. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even did a 3D printed part for me from my motorbike.
Yeah. Was that resin or filament?
I don't know. All I know, it was big, black, and it fitted perfectly because I did a third angle projection drawing for it, and it fitted straight in.
Fair play.
John,
Yeah.
shame on you, John.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't respond to that because I knew what John's reaction was going to be.
I was laughing at something else. Trust me.
AFC Nugget Airfix have reduced their telephone inquiries lines between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. Is that in the UK? Because I knew that they were doing 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Fridays. You couldn't get them after 1 p.m. on a Friday, but is that all week? Is it AFC Nugget? Oh, yeah.
Isn't that because the complaints telephone lines at Airfix have now got cobwebs all over them?
No, there's always complaints, mate. There's always something that's going wrong. Yeah.
Because they started working civil service hours on a Friday, that's why.
Yeah, but it's throughout the week. But there's always been 9 to 1 or something on a Friday. But then, to be fair, whenever I contact customer service and that, it's always done through email. For me, I've rung them up. I've rung them up to pay for models and stuff. I get an email saying, "Oh, your card hasn't." That was the problem 2 years ago when I was doing pre-ordering. I gave them my credit card, and the expiry date ran out. In the March. So everything that came after March, because I couldn't change it, obviously. As soon as I got the email, ring them up and say, "Yeah, use this card," and got it sent out. But yeah. And the thing is, though, telephone, and I'm one for this. I rather message now than telephone call, because what I say on the phone isn't necessarily recorded, is it? But if you've got an email trail, you can revert back to what's being typed in, and you can go back to what's being said. So, garage tools and bike lift socket sets, etc., for bike dials. Whoa. What do you reckon then, Dave? Is that something you were looking into? Because at the moment you're mostly military. Have you ever thought about going down Civvy Street with some of these parts?
So we do toolboxes, tools, all in 1/16 at the moment. We do bottles, kitchen top tables and chairs.
Wow.
All that type of stuff. We already do a lot of that as well. Not in 1/12, but it's something that possibly I can look at. Again, it's when I get asked more of it, is it the right area to do it? Because people go about rescaling, that's fair enough, but it might take me to, like, say, for argument, an hour to rescale and peg, print it for 5 or 6 hours for it to fail to reprint. It's working out how it's cost effective as well.
Yeah, I like your 135th jerry cans. I bought these off you for a tenner. I think you'll get more. You get more than 8. I've used some of these already. I think I'm still using them, but yeah, you get the old jerry cans there. Really nice design, actually. Because a lot of the time when you're doing 135th jerry cans, you end up having to put 2 halves together, and you're missing that third handle. Come on, I hate this when this bloody thing doesn't.
Use your thingy, Moz.
Yeah, use me thingy. That's the. You even got the lip.
Ooh. Yeah, they're very intricate, aren't they?
They're very nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
We're also doing like food containers, 135th, fences, 135th. Our range of that is actually grown quite big.
Yeah.
We're doing manhole covers for people now as well in 135th.
Have I got what's it called off you? Did I get a crate of tins or something off you in one of the
I gave you a filled crate of tins as well.
That's right, yeah.
And stuff like that, and potatoes and bits.
Yeah, potatoes and that. Yeah, it's awesome. There is a program called Make Human for figures. Can you 3D print these? A friend told me about it. Do you know about that website?
I don't.
No. Keep it
let me have a quick. It rings a bell. I think are they the one that scans you and sends you the file?
Yeah, I think that might be it, mightn't it? Make Human.
Oh, there's one. Oh, right. So it's a 3D software you can make yourself on it. It depends on the file format and what they send it to you as. So most 3D printers or 3D programs will use STLs or OBJ files.
Okay.
Normally STL is the primary one that a lot of people use. If they come as an STL file, then yes, it's potential you can print it.
Okay.
I've not heard of that company, so I do apologise.
right. No, I think I just wonder if people, because you have a scanner, don't you? Because you can scan people in. Because I may have to make a trip up to you and visit you and get myself scanned in. Somebody recommended me as a Bearcat pilot.
Yeah, why not?
You did the top half of me anyway, so
We can always go out in the back room at one of the shows.
Don't tell anyone.
Okay.
Right, folks, it's getting up to 10 o'clock. I've got nothing else to add. But thanks all for watching. Thank you, Dave, for coming along and talking to us about 3D printing. Remember,
Thank you for having me.
go and visit his website. And if you do enjoy your figure painting and you want to subscribe to him, I've done a video about it on my channel that you can go and watch, where I look closely at the figure and what you get inside the box. I it's all the little things you gave me as well, like the little key ring here. I presume that's one print, is it?
Yeah, it's a one-piece print.
Have you thought about doing tracks yet, as in a one piece? Because I saw a company called Infinity do Tiger One tracks, and basically you take them off and they're removable, and then you just add with brass rod the extras that go around. So about
it
doing
is
that?
possible. It's just literally, again, the research, working out how long the track should be, each track length, making sure you've got enough track parts to make it. But yes, it's possible.
If you are a Tiger One or a tank enthusiast that can help Dave out, please contact him on 3D Gizmo and help.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, I'm going to call it a night. And I'll say I'm up to London tomorrow, so I've got to pick up a load of bits and pieces from London. But again, Dave, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Barry, Ben, Jim, John, and Roger, Zinzan, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next Monday. Have a good one. Take care all, and good night.
Bye-bye.